Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookercast, the podcast where books come to life.
And I'm so excited to dive into another amazing story with all of you.
Whether you're a bookworm or just love a good story, this is the place for you.
Every episode, we explore incredible books, talk about their stories and characters, and share insights that'll make you fall in love with reading all over again.
All right, let's not keep you waiting any longer. Get comfortable, and let's jump right into it.
Sounds good.
All right, let's dive into this one. Brian Greene's Until the End of Time.
Okay.
And you've given us quite a bit to dig into here.
Yeah.
Really focusing on those big questions.
Right.
How did life begin? What is consciousness?
Yeah.
And where does it all end?
Yeah, it's fascinating how he takes all these big concepts from cosmology and philosophy
Yeah.
and really tries to use those as a framework
Right.
to understand, not just the science, but what it means to be human in this vast universe.
Yeah, and one of the things that struck me right away
Okay.
was this idea that our awareness of death,
Yeah.
our own limited time,
Yeah.
might actually be what drives us to seek out these timeless truths and things like math, physics, even art.
Absolutely.
Does that ring true for you at all?
Yeah, and he even tells that story about sitting in a Starbucks,
Right.
contemplating this far future where the stars have faded and the universe is cold and empty. And instead of feeling despair, he actually found this sense of calm and connection to something bigger than himself.
It's interesting because he goes on to say how that experience really made him rethink his own desire
Yeah.
to achieve things, to leave a mark on the world.
Yeah.
And it's almost like facing that ultimate end of everything helped him find a different kind of meaning.
Exactly. He realized that a lot of that drive to accomplish things came from that fear of being forgotten,
Right.
of being wiped out, as the philosopher Robert Nozick puts it.
Right.
But if everything is ultimately temporary, maybe the meaning lies in the experience itself, in appreciating the journey.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about entropy.
Okay.
This concept that comes up a lot in the book.
Yeah.
Can you maybe break down for us what entropy is and why it's so important for understanding the universe?
So think of entropy as a measure of how spread out energy is.
Okay.
The more evenly distributed energy is, the higher the entropy.
Right.
And it all comes down to the second law of thermodynamics,
Right.
which essentially says that the total entropy of a closed system can only increase over time.
So it's not just about things getting messier.
Right.
There's this deeper connection to energy here.
Exactly. Usable energy tends to decrease over time as entropy increases.
Okay.
You can think about a hot cup of coffee cooling down.
Yeah.
The heat energy spreads out into the room, becomes less concentrated, less useful for doing work.
So if entropy is always increasing, does that mean the universe is just winding down,
Yeah.
heading towards a state of maximum disorder?
That's the idea behind that concept of heat death.
Okay.
Eventually, all the stars will burn out, black holes will evaporate.
Right.
The universe will reach a state of thermodynamic equilibrium,
Right.
where everything is the same temperature and no more work can be done.
That sounds pretty bleak.
It does.
But I noticed Greene also talks about how entropy can actually lead to more complex structures.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It's almost a paradox.
Right.
While the total entropy of the universe is always increasing, there can be these localized decreases in entropy,
Okay.
leading to the formation of more ordered structures. But for that to happen, there has to be an even greater increase in entropy somewhere else.
So it's like this cosmic balancing act.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example?
So think about the formation of a star.
Okay.
You start with a vast cloud of gas and dust, which has high entropy because the matter is spread out.
Okay.
Gravity pulls this matter together, forms a dense hot star,
Yeah.
which represents a decrease in entropy.
So gravity is like creating order out of chaos.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
But in the process, the star is radiating an enormous amount of heat and light out into space,
Right.
increasing the entropy of its surroundings.
Okay.
So the total entropy of the system still increases, even though the star itself becomes more ordered.
Okay. I'm starting to get the picture here.
Okay.
So how does this all connect to the origin of life? Did entropy somehow play a role in that too?
It's certainly a contributing factor. For life to arise, you need a source of energy and a way to channel that energy into creating these complex structures.
Right.
And remember, life isn't just about creating order. It also generates its own waste and heat, increasing entropy in its surroundings.
So life is part of this cosmic dance.
Yeah.
Between order and disorder.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how Greene delves into the specifics of how life actually formed.
Yeah.
He talks about the possibility of an RNA world, right?
Exactly. He explores the idea that RNA, this simpler cousin of DNA, might have been the first self-replicating molecule.
Interesting.
And RNA has this amazing ability to both store genetic information and catalyze chemical reactions, making it a likely candidate for the precursor to life as we know it.
And then from RNA, we eventually get DNA, which leads to the incredible complexity of cells.
Precisely. And Greene doesn't just gloss over the details. He goes into how cells use this molecule called ATP as their primary energy currency, powering all sorts of incredible processes.
He even gives some mind-boggling numbers.
Yeah, he does.
About how many ATP molecules a single cell uses every second.
Yeah.
It's like a tiny bustling city.
It is.
Inside each of our cells.
It really is.
It's a testament to the amazing efficiency and complexity of life, all made possible by these finely tuned chemical reactions that ultimately obey those laws of thermodynamics and entropy.
Exactly.
So we've gone from the Big Bang to the formation of stars to the origin of life. And somewhere along the way, consciousness emerges. How does Greene approach this incredibly complex topic?
Well, he tackles what's often called the hard problem of consciousness. How do physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience? How do we explain the feeling of redness or the experience of joy?
It's a question that has stumped philosophers and scientists for centuries. Does Greene offer any solutions?
Well, he explores a range of possibilities. From the idea that consciousness is ultimately explainable through physics, to more philosophical perspectives. He even uses that thought experiment about Mary the color scientist, who lives in a black and white world, but knows everything about the science of color vision.
The question is, if she suddenly sees the color red, does she learn something new? Or did she already know everything there is to know about red, just not the subjective experience of it?
Exactly. It's this fascinating thought experiment that highlights the difficulty of bridging the gap between the objective world of physics and the subjective world of experience.
So are we any closer to understanding how consciousness arises?
That's a tough one. Greene doesn't claim to have all the answers. But he does offer some intriguing ideas about how consciousness might be connected to the brain's ability to create models of the world. And how language might have played a crucial role in its development.
It sounds like we've only just begun to scratch the surface of this mystery.
Yeah, we have.
And there's so much more to cover. We haven't even touched on the ultimate fate of the universe. The search for meaning, or the intersection of science and spirituality.
Absolutely. Lots more to unpack. So we were just talking about that whole idea of consciousness.
Right, and it's interesting how Greene connects this back to our drive to create meaning, particularly through stories. He even says that storytelling might have given our ancestors an evolutionary advantage.
If you think about it, it makes sense. Imagine a group of early humans gathered around a fire, sharing stories about successful hunts or dangerous predators, or even just the social dynamics of the tribe.
Those stories would be a powerful way to transmit knowledge, teach valuable lessons, strengthen social bonds.
And Greene points out that even the oldest known written story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, grapples with those big existential questions. The meaning of life, the fear of death, the search for immortality.
It's a reminder that these questions have been haunting humanity for a very long time.
They have.
Millennia. It's almost as if we're hardwired to seek out these narratives. Try and make sense of our place in the universe through stories. And that brings us to religion. It's a sensitive topic. But Greene doesn't shy away from it.
No, he doesn't. And he's very careful to present different perspectives. He explores the cognitive science view, which suggests that our brains are naturally predisposed to religious belief. Because of their evolutionary history.
So we're wired for belief.
In a way.
How would that be beneficial from an evolutionary standpoint?
Well, one theory is that religion promotes social cohesion. If you believe in a shared set of values, if you have rituals that bind you together, you're more likely to cooperate and support each other, which would have been essential for survival in our early history.
It creates that sense of belonging, of purpose, which can be incredibly powerful. But as history has shown, it can also be a source of conflict and division.
Absolutely, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
And Greene doesn't ignore that.
Right.
He presents the game theory perspective, which examines how cooperation can evolve, even in the face of self-interest.
So it's not just about blind faith.
Right.
There are these complex social and psychological factors at play.
Exactly. And what I find fascinating is how he weaves together all these different threads.
Yeah.
From cognitive biases to social dynamics to evolutionary pressures to try and understand this deeply ingrained human need for belief.
Okay, so we've talked about the origins of life,
Yeah.
the nature of consciousness and the role of religion. But ultimately, until the end of time is about the fate of the universe itself.
Right.
What does Greene see in our cosmic future?
Well, he uses this brilliant analogy of climbing the Empire State Building to visualize the vastness of future timescales. Each floor represents a duration 10 times longer than the one before. So as we ascend, we're talking about trillions, quadrillions, even Googles of years into the future.
Yeah, that's hard to even wrap my head around.
Yes.
So what happens on those upper floors in those mind-bogglingly distant futures?
Well, one of the first major events is this accelerated expansion of space.
Yeah.
Driven by this mysterious force called dark energy.
Right.
It's pushing galaxies apart at an ever-increasing rate.
And if it keeps going, it could eventually lead to something called the Big Rip.
Exactly. It's this scenario where the fabric of space itself stretches so violently that galaxies, stars, even atoms are torn apart.
That's a pretty dramatic ending.
It is.
But I remember Greene also discussing the possibility that dark energy might weaken over time.
Right.
Averting the Big Rip.
Yeah, our understanding of dark energy is still evolving, so there's a lot we don't know.
Sure.
But even if we avoid the Big Rip, the universe is still heading towards a state of ever-increasing entropy.
So what would that look like?
Well, even without the Big Rip, star formation will eventually cease. And existing stars will slowly fade away.
Right.
Black holes will evaporate, releasing their energy back into space as faint Hawking radiation.
It sounds like a slow but inevitable decline.
Yeah, it does.
What happens to life and consciousness in this fading universe?
Yeah.
Can they survive?
That's a really tough question.
Yeah.
Greene explores the limits of what's physically possible. He explains how thinking requires energy.
Right.
And in a universe with limited energy resources, it becomes increasingly difficult to sustain those complex thought processes.
So even if life finds a way to endure,
it
seems like consciousness as we know it might eventually be extinguished.
It's a sobering thought.
It is.
But Greene doesn't rule out the possibility that some incredibly advanced civilizations might find ways to adapt. Maybe they could find ways to stretch out their energy supplies or tap into new sources of energy or even merge with technology in ways we can't even imagine.
It's like they'd have to become masters of efficiency, squeezing every last bit of usable energy out of the universe.
Exactly. But even then, it seems like a long shot.
Right.
The universe is running down. And ultimately, even the most ingenious civilizations will face those same thermodynamic constraints.
This brings us back to Greene's point about our search for meaning.
Right.
In a universe that seems indifferent to our fate.
Yeah.
If everything is ultimately temporary, what's the point of it all?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Greene doesn't offer any easy answers. But he does suggest that meaning doesn't have to come from something external, from some cosmic purpose or divine plan.
So where does it come from?
He argues that meaning can arise from the very act of seeking, of exploring, of trying to understand our place in this vast and ever-evolving universe. He emphasizes the power of human creativity, our ability to create art, music, literature, build connections with each other.
It's almost as if we're creating our own meaning.
Yeah.
Even in the face of the universe's ultimate demise.
Exactly. And that's what makes Until the End of Time such a thought-provoking book.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront these big questions about our existence, our purpose, and our place in the cosmos.
Yeah.
Even as it acknowledges that there may not be any easy answers.
It's a book that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
It does.
And speaking of things that stay with you, we have to talk about one of the most mind-bending concepts Greene introduces.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the book.
Okay.
Boltzmann brains.
Yes, those randomly assembled brains that could theoretically pop into existence out of the quantum foam.
Right.
It's one of those ideas that makes you question everything you thought you knew about reality.
I remember feeling a bit of existential dread when I first read about Boltzmann brains.
I can imagine.
I mean, if it's possible for a brain with all my memories and experiences to just randomly assemble out of thin air, what does that say about my own existence?
It's definitely a thought-provoking, if not slightly disturbing concept.
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of what we can truly know about reality.
Right.
If our own experiences could be the result of random fluctuations, how can we be sure of anything?
Okay, I think we need to take a moment to let that sink in.
Yeah.
So we're back, and, we've been spending all this time talking about until the end of time.
We have.
But now it's time to hear from you.
Yeah.
Our listeners.
Right.
What did you think? What resonated with you?
What questions did it raise for you?
We asked for your thoughts on social media, and we got some really interesting responses.
We did.
Particularly around this whole idea of entropy and Boltzmann brains.
Yeah, that concept of a brain just randomly assembling out of the void, complete with memories and experiences.
Right.
It really seemed to capture everyone's imagination.
Yeah, one listener at Quantum Conundrum asked, if I could be a Boltzmann brain, how can I be sure any of this is real?
That is a valid question.
Yeah.
And it's one that Greene himself acknowledges as incredibly challenging. It raises all sorts of issues about the nature of reality and how we can trust our own perceptions.
Another listener at Existential Explorer commented, the idea of Boltzmann brains is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like our worst nightmares about losing our identity and memories suddenly becoming a real possibility.
I can see that.
Right.
Yeah.
But another listener at Cosmic Optimist offered a different perspective, saying, even if I'm a Boltzmann brain, the fact that I'm experiencing something, that I'm aware of my own existence, is amazing in itself. It's like a cosmic lottery win.
That's a good way to look at it.
Right, and a lot of you also had some really insightful comments about entropy.
We did.
That Entropy Enthusiast wrote.
Okay.
I never thought I'd find thermodynamics so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like this cosmic clock slowly winding down. But in the process, it creates all these amazing pockets of complexity and beauty.
Yeah, Greene does a great job, I think, of showing how entropy is not just about things getting messier. It's this fundamental force that drives the evolution of the universe, even leading to the emergence of life itself.
At Stargazer Steve added, it's mind-blowing to think that the same force that drives stars to burn out and black holes to evaporate also played a role in creating the conditions for life to arise.
That's a great point.
Right. It's this reminder that the universe is full of these paradoxical forces.
Yeah.
Where destruction and creation are intimately intertwined.
They are.
Now, we also got a lot of questions about the search for meaning in a universe that seems to be heading toward an inevitable end. At Purpose Seeker, Paul asked, if everything is ultimately temporary, what's the point of it all?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
Right. It's a question that's haunted philosophers and theologians for centuries.
It has.
And Greene doesn't pretend to have all the answers.
Right.
But he does offer some compelling perspectives.
Yeah, he suggests that meaning doesn't have to come from something external.
From
some grand cosmic purpose or divine plan. Instead, it might arise from the very act of seeking, of exploring, of trying to understand our place in the universe.
That meaning maker, Maria, commented, I found it comforting that Greene emphasizes the importance of human connection, creativity, and our ability to find beauty in the world, even in the face of ultimate endings.
It's a perspective that allows us to find hope and purpose, even in a universe that might seem indifferent to our fate.
Right. Another listener at Cosmic Philosopher wrote,
Okay.
One of the things that struck me most about Until the End of Time is how Greene seamlessly blends science and philosophy.
Yeah.
It's not just about equations and theories.
Right.
It's about what it means to be human.
And that's what makes this book so unique and so engaging.
Right.
It's this journey through the vastness of time and space, but it's also this deeply personal exploration of what it means to live a meaningful life in a universe that's constantly changing.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Until the End of Time, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think Greene reminds us that we are incredibly fortunate to be alive, to be conscious, to be able to experience this incredible universe. And even though we are small and finite beings, we have this capacity to contemplate the infinite, to seek knowledge, to create beauty, and to find connection with each other.
And those pursuits, perhaps, are where we find the meaning we seek.
Exactly. So keep exploring. Keep questioning. Keep searching for those moments of wonder that remind you of the extraordinary privilege of being alive in this vast and mysterious cosmos.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
On this deep dive.
Yeah.
And a huge thank you to Brian Greene for writing such a thought-provoking and inspiring book.
He did.
Until next time, keep looking up.
Yeah.
And keep asking those big questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Bookercast. We hope you enjoyed diving into it as much as we did. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Your support means the world, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this episode with your fellow book lovers. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. See you in the next deep dive. Bye for now, and happy reading.